it is clear that we must continually free ourselves from the mind. The mind is like a dungeon, a prison in which we are all confined. We need to escape this prison if we truly want to know real freedom, freedom that is beyond time and beyond the mind itself. First of all, we have to recognize that the mind is not the same as our being. Unfortunately, people identify so strongly with the mind that when they say, "I am thinking," they believe they are the mind. There are even schools dedicated to strengthening the mind. They offer correspondence courses and teach ways to develop mental power, but all of this is misguided. We do not need to reinforce the bars of the prison we are already trapped in. We need to break them if we want to experience true freedom, which, as I said, does not belong to time. As long as we remain confined within the prison of the intellect, we will never enjoy real freedom. The mind itself is a painful prison. No one has ever been truly happy while trapped in the mind. I have never met anyone who is. The mind makes all creatures miserable. The happiest moments of our lives have always been moments when the mind was absent. There is always at least one instant in life, a moment we never forget, when we experienced real happiness, even if only for a second. The mind does not know happiness. It is a prison. We have to learn to master the mind, not someone else's mind, but our own, if we want independence from it. It is essential to learn to view the mind as something we must train and control. We can recall that the divine Jesus entered Jerusalem riding a donkey on Palm Sunday. This donkey symbolizes the mind we must subdue. We must ride the donkey, not let it ride us. Unfortunately, most people are victims of their own minds because they have never taken control. The mind is like an extremely stubborn donkey that must be disciplined if we are to direct it. During meditation, we need to speak to the mind. If a doubt arises, we must examine it carefully. When a doubt is properly studied, when we analyze it thoroughly and leave no trace of it in our memory, it disappears. But when a doubt persists and we struggle with it endlessly, it creates conflict. Every doubt is an obstacle to meditation. We do not eliminate doubt by rejecting it, but by examining it to understand what obscures reality. Any doubt that persists becomes an obstacle. So we must analyze it, take it apart, and break it down, not fight it. We must open it with the scalpel of self-criticism, performing a clear and thorough investigation. Only then can we discover what in the doubt is unimportant, what is real, and what is not. Sometimes doubts even help clarify our understanding. When we dissolve a doubt through careful analysis, we often discover some truth. From that discovery comes something profound, more insight, more wisdom. Wisdom is built on direct experience, on one's own experience, on the foundation of deep meditation. There are times, I repeat, when we have to speak with the mind, because often when we want silence, the mind continues with its noise, its idle chatter, and its inner conflicts. In such moments, we must question the mind, saying, "All right, mind, what do you want? Answer me." If the meditation is deep, some image or representation may appear, and the answer will be found in that image. We must speak to the mind and help it see things clearly, show it that its answers are mistaken, that its worries are useless, and that the reasons behind them have no real value. Eventually, the mind becomes quiet, but if we notice that illumination still does not arise, that confusion, noise, and inner struggle continue, then we must again call the mind to order. What do you want? What are you looking for? Why don't you leave me in peace? We must speak to the mind as if it was something separate from us, because it truly is not part of the being. We must treat it as something foreign, correcting and reproaching it when necessary. Advanced Zen students practice judo, but tourists who see them believe they are simply engaging in physical exercise. In reality, they give little importance to the physical body during practice. Their true struggle is to master their own minds. The real judo they practice is psychological. In this way, psychological judo seeks to master the mind, to treat it scientifically and skillfully so it can be brought under control. Unfortunately, Westerners misunderstand this. They focus only on the outer form of judo, viewing it merely as self-defense, and they ignore its Zen principles. This has been very unfortunate. Something similar happened with the tarot. In the tarot is contained ancient wisdom and the cosmic laws of nature. For example, someone who speaks against sexual magic is speaking against the 9th arcanum of the tarot, and therefore acquires terrible karma. Someone who supports the dogma of evolution is violating the law of the 10th arcanum, and so on. The tarot is the standard of measurement for all things. I stated this in my book, The Mystery of the Golden Blooming, where I concluded by saying that authors are free to write what they wish, but they should not forget that the true standard is the tarot, the book of gold, if they do not want to violate cosmic laws and fall under catancy, which is a higher form of karma. After this brief digression, I want to say that the most sacred and wise tarot has been reduced to a game of poker and other card games used merely for entertainment. People have forgotten its laws and principles. The sacred pools of the ancient mystery temples have become modern swimming pools for recreation. Bullfighting, once a profound and sacred taurine science rooted in the ancient mysteries of Neptune in Atlantis, has lost its principles and degraded into a simple public spectacle. For this reason, it is not surprising that Zen-chan Judo, which originally aims to conquer one's own mind through each movement and action, has also degenerated in the Western world. It has lost its principles and become nothing more than a technique for self-defense. Let us consider the psychological side of Judo. In the psychological Judo taught by the revolution of the dialectic, one must dominate the mind. The mind must learn obedience, and to achieve this, it often must be firmly corrected. This is not what Krishnamurti taught, nor what Zen or Chan have taught. What I am explaining belongs to the second jewel of the yellow dragon, the second jewel of wisdom. Zen may be included in the first jewel, but the second jewel is not explained in Zen, although Zen contains certain early hints of it within its psychological Judo. The second jewel involves disciplining the mind, dominating it, correcting it, and restraining it. The mind is like an intolerable donkey that must be tamed. During meditation, we must account for many factors if we want to achieve true quietness and silence of the mind. We must study our inner disorder, because only by understanding disorder can we create order. We must understand what in us is attentive and what in us is inattentive. Whenever we enter meditation, the mind divides itself into two parts, the part that pays attention and the part that does not. It is not the attentive part that needs our focus, but rather the inattentive part. When we profoundly understand this inattentive aspect and study how inattention can be transformed into attention, we achieve stillness and silence of the mind. But this requires careful meditation, examining ourselves to discover what in us is inattentive. We must become conscious of this inattentive part. When I say that we must dominate the mind, the one who must dominate it is the essence, the consciousness. As the consciousness awakens, we gain more power over the mind, and we become aware of what is unconscious within us. It is urgent and unavoidable that we learn to dominate the mind, speak to it, challenge it, correct it with the force of our will, and make it obey. This teaching belongs to the second jewel of the yellow dragon. My real being, Samael Aun Weor, reincarnated in ancient China under the name Chao Li. I was initiated into the Order of the Yellow Dragon, and I have the responsibility of delivering the 7 jewels of the yellow dragon to those who awaken consciousness, live the revolution of the dialectic, and achieve total inner revolution. Above all, we must not identify with the mind if we truly wish to draw out the full meaning of the 2nd jewel. If we believe we are the mind, if we say, I am reasoning, I am thinking, then we affirm an absurdity and contradict the doctrine of the yellow dragon. The being has no need to think. The mind is the one that reasons. The being simply is. The reason for the being is the being itself. The being is the life that pulses in every atom and every sun. The one who thinks is not the being. The one who reasons is not the being. We have not incarnated the entirety of the being, but we have incarnated a portion of it, the essence or buddhata, the soul substance within us. This living essence must learn to rule over the mind. What we analyze within ourselves are the eyes, because these eyes are merely constructs of the mind, mental forms that must be dissolved and reduced to dust. Right now, we are studying something very particular. Consider a person who dissolves their eyes and eliminates them. Now consider someone who not only eliminates the eyes, but also develops a mental body. Such a person acquires mental individuality. Yet even then, one must liberate oneself from the mental body itself, because the mental body, no matter how refined, still thinks and reasons. And the highest form of thought is not to think at all. Whenever we think, we are not using the highest form of understanding. The being does not need to think. The being simply is. Therefore, in summary, we must subdue the mind and question it. We do not need to conquer anyone else's mind. That would be black magic. We do not need to dominate another person. This would be inferior sorcery. What we need is to conquer and dominate our own mind. During meditation, as I repeat, there are 2 parts, what is attentive and what is inattentive. We must become conscious of the inattentive part within us. To do so, we must recognize that this inattentive part contains many factors. There are many kinds of doubt. Countless doubts arise within the human mind. Where do these doubts come from? Take atheism, materialism, or mysticism. If we examine them closely, we find many varieties of skepticism, many forms of atheism, and many kinds of materialism. Some people call themselves atheist materialists, yet they are afraid of things like witchcraft. They respect nature and claim to see something divine within it, though in their own way. When one speaks with them about spiritual or religious matters, they call themselves atheistic materialists, but their atheism is only superficial. There is another type of materialism and atheism, the Marxist-Leninist kind, which expresses a deep disbelief. At its core, this type of materialist seeks something. He wants to disappear, to stop existing, to vanish completely. He does not want to know anything about his divine monad. He rejects it. Acting in this way, he ultimately disintegrates, fulfilling his own desire for self-destruction as he descends toward the infernal worlds, toward the planetary center of gravity. Yet even then, the essence eventually becomes free again. It returns to new evolutions and new involutions, going through different cycles of manifestation, only to fall once again into the same skepticism and materialism. Finally, when all opportunities have been exhausted, when the 3,000 cycles are completed, the essence is absorbed into the monad. In time, it enters the universal spiritual bosom of life, but without mastery. What does such an essence really want? What is it seeking through its atheism? Deep down, its longing is to avoid mastery. The end result has little value, for it remains only a divine spark without mastery. There are many forms of skepticism. Some people say they are Catholic and devout, yet they are deeply materialistic and atheistic. They still attend Sunday Mass, take communion, and go to confession, but this too is simply another form of skepticism. If we analyze all current and future forms of skepticism and materialism, we see that there is not just one type, There are countless variations. They are countless precisely because they arise from the mind. Skepticism and materialism belong to the mind and not to the being. When someone has gone beyond the mind, becoming conscious of the truth that exists outside of time, they cannot be materialistic or atheistic. Whoever has once heard the word is beyond time and beyond mind. Atheism belongs to the mind, which spreads itself out like a fan with countless forms. Materialism and atheism have many shapes, just like a great fan. What is real lies beyond the mind. The atheist and the materialist are ignorant of this. They have never heard the word. They have never known the divine voice or entered the current of sound. It is in the mind that atheism and materialism are formed. These are mental constructions, illusory and without true reality. What is real does not belong to the mind. The truly real exists beyond the mind. Becoming independent of the mind is essential if we want to know what is real, not intellectually, but through direct experience. By placing attention on what is inattentive within us, we begin to see various forms of skepticism, disbelief, and doubt. When any kind of doubt appears, we must examine it carefully, dissect it, and see what truth may lie behind it. When it has been analyzed completely, the doubt disappears without leaving any trace. When we observe the inattentive part of ourselves, we also see the struggle of opposing thoughts within the mind. We must examine these contradictions to uncover the truth. We must also dissect our memories, emotions, desires, and worries, especially those we do not understand and whose origins are unknown to us. When we see clearly that the mind must be called to attention, there often comes a point when we grow tired of its lack of obedience. At that moment, we must confront it directly as if it were a foreign and intrusive presence. We must discipline the mind with the strength of our will, reprimand it firmly, and make it obey. We often have to speak to the mind repeatedly so that it understands. If it still refuses, we must call it to order with even greater insistence. Not identifying with the mind is indispensable. We must subdue it and correct it. If it continues to resist, then we must correct it again. In this way, we gradually go beyond the mind and draw near to the truth that is not of time. When we come close to that which is beyond time, we experience an element that transforms us completely. This transformative element is not of time and can only be known by going beyond the mind. We must struggle intensely to transcend the mind in order to achieve the inner self-realization of the being. Again and again, we must free ourselves from the mind and enter the current of sound, the world of sacred music, the realm where the word of the Elohim resounds and where truth reigns. When we think the mind is quiet, when we think it is silent, and yet no spiritual experience arises, it's because the mind is neither quiet nor silent at all. In reality, it's still struggling, still chattering. So during meditation, we must confront it, speak to it, question it, demand to know what it wants. We can say, "Mind, why are you not quiet? Why won't you let me be at peace?" The mind will answer in some way, and then we reply with a clearer explanation to correct it. If it refuses to be corrected, then there is nothing to do but force it to yield through firm discipline and the whip of the will. Mastering the mind goes beyond simply observing opposites. For example, if a thought of hatred or a painful memory arises, we must try to understand it by seeing its opposite, love. If love exists, then why has hatred appeared? For what reason? If a memory of a lustful act arises, we should place in the mind the sacred chalice and the holy lance and say, "Why do you profane sacred things with these impure thoughts?" If we remember someone tall, we should picture that person as short. This is correct because the key is always to seek the synthesis. Thesis leads to antithesis, but the truth is in neither. Thesis and antithesis only produce discussion, and this is exactly what we need. Affirmation, negation, discussion, and solution. Affirmation is the mistaken thought. Negation is the same thought seen through its opposite. Discussion is the examination of what is real in both. Through this process, we arrive at understanding, and once we understand, the mind becomes quiet and silent. This is how we must work. All of this is part of conscious practice of observing what is inattentive. If we simply say, "This is a memory of a tall person," and then replace it with an image of a short person, and stop there, that is not correct. The right approach is to see that tall and short are simply two aspects of the same thing. What matters is neither tall nor short, but the truth behind both. Tall and short are illusions of the mind. When we see this, we reach synthesis and solution. Inattention is made of the subconscious, the incoherent, the countless memories that rise in the mind, the recurring impressions of the past, the forceful surge of old images, and so on. We should neither accept nor reject the elements that make up the subconscious. We only need to become conscious of what is inattentive. When we do this, inattention naturally becomes attentive. The distracted part of the mind becomes alert on its own. We must turn our daily life into a continuous meditation. Meditation is not only the act of stilling the mind in our home or in the temple. It is also learning to embrace the flow of ordinary life so that life itself becomes constant meditation. Only then do we discover the truth. The mind itself is the ego, but it is necessary to destroy the ego so that the pure mental substance can remain, substance with which the mental body can be formed. The mind always remains, but we must free ourselves from it. Feeling free from the mind, we must learn to move in the world of the spirit without the mind, to live in that current of sound beyond the mind, beyond time. In the mind there is ignorance. True wisdom is not of the mind, it is beyond the mind. Because the mind is ignorant, it falls into serious errors. How stubborn are those who promote mental propaganda, who encourage the development of mental powers, who teach others to control the minds of people. The mind has never made anyone happy. Real happiness lies far beyond the mind. One cannot know happiness without freeing oneself from the mind. Dreams belong to the unconscious. When consciousness awakens, dreams cease. Dreams are merely projections of the mind. I remember an experience in the higher worlds. In one brief moment of carelessness, I saw a dream arise from my mind. I was about to begin dreaming, and I reacted within the dream itself, which had escaped from me for an instant. Becoming aware of the process, I saw a rigid mental form leave me. How strange that I had been about to fall asleep. I could have become trapped in that mental form. When one is awake, one realizes that a moment of inattention can allow a dream to escape and track one all night until morning. The important thing is to awaken consciousness, to stop dreaming, to stop thinking. Thought itself, cosmic substance, is the mind. Even the astral body is nothing but a condensation of mental matter, and the physical world too is condensed mind. The mind is material, coarse material, whether in the physical form or in the astral form, which the Hindus call manasic. In either state, the mind remains crude and material. The mind is material, and therefore it cannot give joy. To know authentic happiness, true wisdom, we must free ourselves from the mind and live in the world of the being. That is what matters. We do not deny the creative tower of the mind. Everything that exists is condensed mind. But what good is that? Has the mind made us happy? We can achieve marvels with the mind. We can create many things in life. Great inventions are crystallized mind. But none of this creation has ever made humanity happy. What we need is independence to escape this material prison because the mind itself is material. We must free ourselves from the material in order to live according to the spirit, to live as beings who experience happiness beyond matter. Matter does not make anyone happy. It is always coarse, even when it takes on beautiful forms. If we seek true happiness, we will not find it in matter but in the spirit. We must liberate ourselves from the mind. Real happiness comes only when we escape the prison of the mind. We do not deny that the mind can create things, inventions, marvels, and wonders, but do these creations give us happiness? Who among us is truly happy? If the mind has not given us happiness, then we must go beyond the mind. We must search elsewhere, and obviously we must search in the world of the spirit. But to do this, we must learn how to break free from the mind, how to liberate ourselves from it. That is the purpose of the practices and studies given in the Gnostic books and in this treatise, The Revolution of the Dialectic. Within us, 3% is consciousness and 97% is subconsciousness. The small amount of consciousness we possess must be directed toward the unconscious and subconscious aspects of ourselves, in order to correct them, illuminate them, and help them become conscious. It is necessary for the conscious part to guide and reproach the subconscious. This act of directing consciousness toward the subconscious is a very important psychological exercise that can be practiced at dawn, gradually transforming the unconscious parts into conscious ones. Inferential peace, Samael Aun Weor.